we're going to chat about these things because I think it's really important. Okay, and I know a lot of you are individual planners, young planners, or young to the industry, or starting out. So you think this may not apply, but it really, really actually is important. Sorry, I'm just going to stop this again. I forgot to push record.
Press record good for you.
Oh shit. Okay, thanks, Ben. Are you, Brian? Okay.
All good.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to run through kind of what we've done and where it works and what the benefits are, and then after this, we can sit and chat about what we all do in our own businesses and hopefully to share some of that stuff. So what we've started off is by documenting every single admin task. So actually writing down, when we implement a new contract, or we change a beneficiary, or we do a session or a loan or a surrender, is actually just write down every single step that is encompassed in that. Okay. So what it does, I mean, one of the things that's helped is that we speed up work. It speeds up work because eventually, when you're following exactly the same process, we know what we're doing, and it becomes second nature. You don't need to be checking it all the time. It's a great in assisting new staff. So when, those of us who have teams that will grow, or perhaps people leave and we need to employ somebody else, it helps new staff when they can come in and they documented, this is how I do a surrender, or this is how I issue a new life contract, or a new investment. It ticks all the boxes when it comes to compliance. So compliance is something none of us like. It's made our lives quite cumbersome, but by having everything documented and by following the same process every time, it takes care of that issue. And it also just makes sure that things get done properly. So once you have a checklist of what needs to be done, it makes sure that everything happens correctly, and then also allows us to find better ways and more efficient ways of doing things. So we all know you get these documents from these life companies or the investment companies, and you use them, and then the next thing you send one in and they say, oh no, this document or this form's changed. So that happens on an ongoing basis. But a lot of the stuff now is done online. I know we do very little of our admin tasks are actually done with a written pen. Normally it's just a signature that's required. And it speaks to also consistency of a client's experience. So where we ideally have clients that we deal with on an ongoing basis, let's say a client's in retirement and they need funds from time to time for whatever it may be, going on a holiday, buying a car, doing something. The clients, they learn to understand that this is the process that needs to go through. So it just speaks to consistency there as well, which is really important. You can see my PowerPoint skills are coming on, Ben. And also what we should ideally be doing is building these into our CRM. So some people may or may not use a CRM. I know some of the corporates will use their version of something like Xplan or at work. We're currently using a version of Xplan, but we're in the process of actually moving to something brand new. But building processes into your CRM, this is where the future is going, is really quite important and actually quite exciting, because it's going to allow that to happen a lot quicker and a lot more efficiently. And efficiency speaks to doing things correctly and to saving a lot of time. Okay, now let me just okay, guys, any questions around that? I'm not going to ask, I'm going to pick on you guys. Brian, I can see you. What processes have you guys built into your business? I know that you run an EB business, and you also do individual planning.
Yeah, that's true. So we're in fact
busy with also June and them as well to do what you guys have probably, I think everyone on the call has done several years ago, and go through the business and formalize a lot of it, because it really helps with also like scalability and that, to make sure that it's an easily replicatable process and that it's something you can train to anyone you employ. So we're busy doing that right now. And then on our CRM system, we recently changed as well, because Xplan is a complete waste of money. So what we use now is another system, which we also building what's called pipelines. And so that is your whole from beginning to end process. I mean, that makes a business extremely valuable, in my opinion, because you can grow it pretty quickly. So we've been extremely thorough about it. But what I found was that going through that process and creating these checklists, what it has done is forced me to re-engineer how we do things as well, because it actually forces you to think about your business. And I think, maybe it's wrong, but I think most advisors don't think too much about their business. I think most advisors try and just do work, and they do something different for everybody every day. So what you showed on that slide now, Dirk, that's like exactly what we've been going through over the last several months. And what's so valuable about it is that it forces you to be honest about your process, how you plan for clients, and to refine that, because every single touch point is a checklist on its own, and it's a thread or it's a pipeline of workflow. And so you need to make it replicatable so that when Ben one day hires Ben 2 and Alex 2 and whatever, they can just say, this is what we do, follow the process. And it's very easy to train. So yeah, it's extremely valuable. And I do believe that everyone, even if you're an employee, like what you do, your scope, the role that you play within the organization, it's extremely important to analyze exactly what you do and to document it, because that'll add extreme value and it will save you a ton of time. And also in terms of compliance, and that you won't forget about that one thing that you were supposed to do and you didn't do it. And then you have to go back 3 months to a client and get a form signed or something stupid. And it makes you look a bit unprofessional.
Great. Brian, what system are you guys moving to now?
We moved to a system called LA CRM. And it's the same one that Salome, I don't know if she's on the call, but Salome and Terence, the Rich Ideas group, they utilize it. We were looking at Zoho 1, but for what we have available now in terms of resources, we would need to do a lot of development on that, and we weren't in that space yet. So we got LA CRM, and it's quite cool because it's set up for advisors, but it's kind of like a clean slate. But you do your own development, so to speak. You create it, but it's just literally you say, well, I want these fields out for a client, and you just drag and drop, and you create your own like drop-down box. So like if you want to add, for instance, your client profile, so say my client is Dirk Krunneveld, and then you can say, well, the way we work is we always include the lead source. So this source came from maybe someone, a lead, and maybe there's a relationship there that I need to honor. So I need to put them like Dosh Guide or something. So like I would have a drop down and create that. You can create your own, it's like a sandbox. And it's very simple. It's just literally it says, do you want a drop down menu? Do you want a notes field, whatever? And you just drop it, and then you create it and you say save, and then all the clients will immediately have that on their profiles and stuff. So it's very easy to use, which for me is great, because as soon as you get into talking about programming and setting things up, but don't forget, if you don't do this properly, everything else falls apart. That's when I have a problem. I need things big, flashy, round buttons to press. And this system is very simple, but it doesn't integrate with everything. Whereas with Zoho One, you can turn it into whatever you want to. It can integrate with, I think, pretty much everything. So it won't integrate with Wealth Integrator, for instance. Like if we had Asset Map, it wouldn't integrate there, and it won't like Astute. So that's the downfall.
Okay, great. Yeah, we actually moving to Zoho One. It doesn't integrate with RWP, but I believe in time it probably will. But Russell, I know you're part of a bigger group as well. Do you do something? Does that group have a CRM that they use, or anything, or any specific processes, or anything that you've done yourself? Russell?
Sorry, got cut off there for a moment. Yeah, so in terms of CRM, I fully actually agree with Brian. Brian, I felt like you were talking to me there when you were explaining why it's so important. Because I've also been working on the processes in CRM for like this last year or so. Because like Dirk mentioned and Brian mentioned as well, it kind of just also, I think we as advisors or planners, in our mind, we know exactly every step, right? But it's also good and important for not only training upcoming employees, because I'm looking at hiring another person now at this point, but like also, I guess, as part of succession planning, like if something happens to us, like there's no point in like everything's in here and then no one else in your practice knows how to run the business. And definitely also, I think for also saving on time, because then for both yourself and then also for the team or anyone that works within your practice, then you can just execute, you just follow the list. In terms of CRM, yeah, look, we're still using, I was also looking at Zoho because Brad Backwalter, I don't know if some of you know, introduced me to it. It's a lot of development. I think also to Brad, I don't know if a lot of you know him quite in depth, but he comes from a software developer background. So that's why Zoho speaks to him. Whereas for me, it was like it's a bit too much development or technical. And then yeah, I've also heard of the LA CRM model because I talk to Terence a lot. So I'm exploring that. But currently now I'm using a combination of Xplan and then Notion as a light way of like documenting CRM because I've seen that Notion, for example, it's a secure online platform, but like I've seen it used in other businesses, but I know also Henry Lagrange from Old Mutual, he also uses it as part of his CRM for the time being, just to kind of like document the process and all that.
Okay, great. Okay. All right, let's get on to. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so now again, because we're talking about processes, and now we just chat about how we do it actually in client meetings. So again, for years it was kind of get the client in, chat, get to know them a bit, and you know the story. It ends up eventually there's a problem. At the end of the problem, there's normally a product, and then when we started doing proper lifestyle planning, obviously that changed. Where we spent a lot more time getting to know clients, understand what's unique about them, and realizing that very often the solution isn't necessarily a product. It's some sort of advice or helping a client take action. So in the early days when I started with IPAC, before it became Access and then on Mutual Wealth, they had a bit of a process laid out, which we followed, and it worked, and obviously we've refined it over the years. So what we've done now as well is we document every single step of our client's interaction, and that's literally from if someone calls in or we get an email. Let's say it's a referral, which is how we mostly get clients, and we've actually documented. It may sound odd, but what Catherine sits in front. So when a client walks in the door, how she greets the client, where they sit, whether she offers them tea or coffee or whatever they want, and every single step. So from that, then come to call one of the planners to take them through whether we're meeting, let's say in my office, which is kind of a lounge setup, or whether we're meeting in the boardroom, which is a boardroom with a big screen, and so we know before a meeting, get the boardroom ready, get the TV on if we're using PowerPoints, or otherwise make sure the offices are clean. So every single thing that we do, we've actually documented. As I say, it sounds silly, but because you kind of do these things in any case, but the truth is that you don't document it, then very often little things start falling through the cracks. So we actually have done who does what. So and so sometimes people will double up depending on if someone's in a meeting or not. But we've documented who does what and when they would do whatever they can. And then again, here we're systemizing anything that we can. And yeah, the main reason we're moving away from Xplan and going to Zoho is, I mean, we're obviously going to start small with the basics, but the idea is that the more we can systemize, the better. We really believe that. So we see that as the future. So I know a lot of you, we've sent you all our slides of the 3-4 meeting process that that every client goes through. And initially, when you look at that, it's, we sometimes, Alex, Ben, and myself will look at each other and say, well, it's a bit boring. But what it does is it's boring for us because we do it almost on a daily basis. But for clients, it is unique because generally clients haven't been through the kind of process that we take them through. And by documenting those meetings, having the same PowerPoint, although we'll change the questions around depending on the plan in the meeting, depending what we know about the clients. But it gives us a real proper consistency of outcome that we want. And for us in our business, what we want is that by the end of that 3-meeting process, the clients feel comfortable with dealing with us. They'll tell us almost anything. They understand what we do, what we don't do, so we're not asset managers. They feel heard, and we can help them. And that's really the beginning of our process. But having documented those 3 meetings, taking every client through that, no matter how much money they do or they don't have, whether it's online, which we do a lot of now, or whether it's in the office, that's really worked well for us. And the result is that consistent outcome. And again, Brian spoke to scalability. Again, not everyone needs to or wants to grow their business, but if you do, it's really important. If a planner is dealing with Dirk or Alex or Ben and eventually whoever else, although the experience would be slightly different because of the individual they're sitting with or the team they're sitting with, the experience, the overall experience would have been the same. And as a business, that's really important because we understand the business isn't built it shouldn't be built around me. And the problem with many businesses is that's it. You've got one lead planner who owns the relationship. If something happens to them, you've got a book, and that's like a dirty word in our world, as you guys know. So it builds consistency in the business, which is really important because, otherwise and again, I don't like the word building a practice because a practice speaks to a doctor and you go to a doctor or a lawyer, and basically all they're doing is all sharing the same front lady, maybe some of the same systems, the same bookkeeper. But I think if you're building a firm or a business, then these processes are really important. So it'll help you build consistency. And it takes time to initially do this, but it becomes easier the longer that we do it. So I know that Alex and Benny work with me. When someone comes in, they sit in meetings where we go through the process, and slowly they start owning it themselves and they make it their own. It takes time, but we know, we've learned that the longer you do this, the easier it gets. And the easier it gets, the more it allows us to focus on the client. And that's really what it's all about. So this can see when you start off at it as being a bit uncomfortable, but really, I mean, Alex and I have got a meeting online with a new client in Joburg after this. And because we know what we're going to do, there's no nerves. It's a big client. There's no nerves. There's no, oh, I hope they like the process or not. We know that everyone we take through the process gets something out of it and that it adds value to them. And it gives confidence to new planners. The biggest problem when someone starts in this industry is, we tend to talk too much, still do, and that's really because of a lack of confidence, which is completely understandable and completely real. But the more we know that we have a process that we can trust, be that in the business or be it in a client meeting, slowly the more confidence we get, and the more confidence we get, the more we are actually able to be present in that meeting and to really listen to the clients, because ultimately that's the golden stuff. It also, so part of the process is also the minutes taking. So we record all our meetings. If it's in person, we have an app we record that on, and that's saved. If it's online, it's saved as well. Generally, we have 2 people in a meeting, so either 2 planners, a planner or a paraplanner, and you'll have the lead advisor. The other person will take minutes, but often we'll go back and listen to those meetings and do more in-depth minutes. We also do what we call, as you know, a client bio, where we highlight personal issues that we just keep a record of, because it's the client's story that we can look back on at any time. But all of these things are built into our process. So we know when we finish a meeting, whoever is the second person in the meeting will do the minutes. We'll save them into a client file. We'll save the recording in the file. We'll save the minutes into that file once they've been sent. And so, when we go back and say, well, hang on, what did we do last year with this client? It's very easy. We simply go back. We can look at the minutes. We can listen to the recording or part of it if we need to. And it just builds, again, that the consistency that talks into the great client experience. And then by doing all of this, what you do is you actually create a value proposition. So we know all the talk about fees and how you charge and all this stuff, and then value proposition. And most people sit there and say, oh, geez, I don't know what that is. The reality is well, I still don't know what it is, but I know that what we do, we believe value is something which is felt by our clients. And the only way they can feel it is to go through our process. If you're going to sit there in a meeting and talk about this fund or that fund or the markets or this risk cover or whatever, there's really going to be a little value in that. But if you're taking a client through a process and you have processes in the business which are consistent, which allow your staff to be highly efficient and the client experience to be a happy and an easy one, then you are creating a value proposition. You're creating a business. And again, once you have this, you can, as Russell's saying, you can continue to improve this on an ongoing basis. We know, we understand that we never get there. We just keep on looking at better ways of doing things. So this has worked really well with our client interactions. And guys, the whole thing with this, I know those of you that are new, it's like, well, I'm on my own here, or I work for a corporate. This doesn't apply to me. Trust me, it really does apply to you. Because even if you are going to build a business where you're a single advisor, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But you need to have processes, and you need to have consistency in that business. And if you're worried where to start, just start. Just take any part that you're comfortable with in your business or in your client meetings and just document it. And you will find that there already will be things that you're doing on a regular basis that you kind of do consistently. Start with those, and then add on the end and add on the bottom, and slowly begin. But it will empower you, and it will make a big difference to your business in the long run. Okay, Frankie, can I pick on you?
Yeah, sure. Excuse the social look. I went walking with the dogs this morning, so I had to very quickly get back here for the meeting. Right, yeah, Dirk. Are you guys going to bear with me if I try to illustrate my point? Can I share a screen with you? Okay.
For sure.
So the screen I'm going to share with you, the first screen, there's numbers 1 to 99. So when the screen comes up, I would like to give you guys, say, 20 seconds to see how many numbers you can get in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, until 99. So just see how many you can get. So let me just share my screen quickly. Can you guys see it?
Yep.
All right, so go for it. 20 seconds, 1 to 99. See how many you can get. Okay, that's it. So just by a show of hands, maybe on the reaction camera, how many And how many got less than 10? Dirk, anyone? Okay, less than 10. Okay, there's quite a few. So by show of hand or thumbs up, who got more than 10? Russell, how many did you get?
You're muted, Russell.
I just got one extra, so I got 11. Just one.
11. Okay. I just want to say I thought he's a star student here. Then I'm gonna share the screen again. But the share I'm screening is I'm gonna give you now. This time I'm only gonna give you 10 seconds and see how many you can get now. Or I'll give you 20 seconds again and just see how many you can get now. So if we divide the square up in quadrants and you go clockwise, top left, top right, bottom right, then bottom left. If I tell you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in each quadrant, it follows like that clockwise. See how many you can get then. Just share it again. Just tell me when you can see it. I will just want to time you. Okay, so who got more than 10 this time? Everyone. So there's this, we got more than 20. And you got more than 20? No star students. But okay, so it's a simple thing. While Dirk was talking, I thought of this exercise which I like to use. It's about vision, communication, and processes. So the better your processes are, the better everyone knows how to follow and what to follow, and they don't have to search and try to figure it out themselves. So let me ask you another question. If we are teaching, or not teaching, that's a very, very bad word. We are journeying with our clients on living a better lifestyle and encouraging them to live better lifestyles. So if we are doing that or journeying with them, surely we are also trying to do that. We're trying to live what we teach. So for us to be able to do that, we do need processes. And what Dirk has touched on earlier, if anyone walks into the office, if anyone works with you, if they understand what process to follow, you can be less at work. You can also start doing the stuff that you want to do and enjoy in life. So if you want to build a firm, I also don't like the word practice. I choose the word, I like firm. So if you want to build a firm, you do need to have processes in place, I believe, that anyone that comes in can follow. So if I can just share quickly again my screen, just to give you an idea. I assume that you guys can see it. Dirk, can you see?
Yeah.
All right, so this is our ops manual. In our ops manual, we've got, we referenced, I'm just going to give practical examples now. We've referenced our accounting, tax, secretarial, admin of estates, financial planning, legal, practice management processes. And if you go into, you can see they referenced there. And if you go to our indexes, that just covers that as well. So if I go to financial planning, I just open the process here quickly, although the index. So that will give you in that folder, in that index, we've got another folder. And then in that folder, we have certain letters or emails of, well, faxes has gone, it's now an email. We've got each and every document which Dirk was speaking about is documented. So there's a complete process, even for practice management. If I could go, for example, just into, if you just bear with me in the practice management, just want to give practically show it. So we've got all these processes, document folders in here, and in each folder, there's different documents that each person can follow, which has been developed. You become, your firm becomes scalable, because now suddenly you have a firm that you're selling, not just clients. Now you're selling processes. Anyone that buys a business can come in here and they completely understand what we have done, how we have done things, what each client has been exposed to. If you get new people on board with you, it's very easy for training purposes. They've got the diagram to flow, where to get the numbers. They've got each and every document they need to follow. So Dirk was showing earlier, speaking about, it sounds simple and it sounds petty, but or petty, but it's not. It just makes your life easier, that you can also come back to enjoy and live the life that you want to live. And it also helps your team to be able to eventually live the life that they want to live, because you make it so much easier for them. Even for a simple thing, like, for example, when I have compliance audits, Lorinda's on the call here today. Well done. Welcome, Lorinda. I think it's your first session with us. She's been with me for 18 years, or 19 years, please. I don't want to get it wrong. But it helps them too. And if I can go back to compliance, when I have a compliance audit, I'm not even present unless my compliance officer want to have a chat to me, because everything is documented. I don't have to take time out of my diary to spend 2 hours in a compliance audit, where Lorinda can support the compliance audit, the compliance officer, and are just basically available for question and answering. So I think it comes back to that thing, is if you identify how the life that you want to have, you need to have processes in place to work towards that. Otherwise, like Dirk said earlier, you always need it. And if you always need it, then I think you do not have a firm. But remember, we weren't there from day one. We were the firm at one stage, and it takes time to build towards that. The earlier you start, the better.
Thanks, Frank. That's really powerful. Thank you, man. Okay, anyone want to add to that? June, I know, June, you deal with a lot of businesses in all stages of development. Any experiences you'd like to share with us?
I think you guys did such a great job. The only thing that I can maybe add to that is, once you get referrals, someone refers someone to you, a client refers someone else to you because they experienced something, okay? And if they now not get the same experience, it's actually not good for your credibility. So to me, that's also why it's very important to have those processes for that consistency of a client experience as well. So it's really bad for your business if someone experienced something great and the next person is not experiencing the same thing if they were referred to you. So that's maybe the only thing I can add to that, Dirk.
Yeah, I think that's really true. I mean, because, as you say, especially if you're getting referrals, someone, one day they will be on the golf course or having a beer and they'll chat about it, and that consistency is really, really important. And what I battled with initially was that I thought that was going to restrict me. I really, it's June, I battled with this for a long time, because I wanted to be able to be different and open and free. But this has actually given me a lot more freedom by building these processes, because within that process, it allows me to, as I said, to be really present, to really listen, and only if you are doing that can the clients really feel that you really do care about them. If you're worried about doing this or doing that, and that's why the PowerPoint may not be everyone's cup of tea, but for us it works really, really well, because we can prepare it before. And sometimes you'll have a client that will take control of the meeting and take it away over there. Let's say they want to talk about product or the market, and having that PowerPoint presentation allows you to bring it back to where you want, and it also makes sure that at the end of that meeting you've covered everything that you want to cover. So I know some people will see it as restrictive, but I think it gets you to the outcome that you need, which then allows you to do the work that you want. Anyone else have any comments on this? Ben?
Thanks, Rick. I was wanted to say, often it's easy to see it sometimes. The big companies, you say, I can understand why they got processes and this and that, but also it's super valuable, running around by yourself, because you are going around, you're looking for prospects, you got to do your own admin, you got to submit stuff to the product providers. You can, sometimes you don't know what day of the week it is because you're just so busy. And so having a process, then I think first of all it helps just knowing where you're going. So it gives you more confidence, because you know I'm meeting with Dirk and I'm going to take him through this in our first meeting, this in the second meeting, this in the third meeting. And so you're not getting to the meeting and you're all a bit over the place because you're not really sure what's happening. So the process helps you with the confidence in taking through that process. And then second of all, just think like, just replying to an email, for example, like, oh, I sent a good email to this person a little while ago. Let me try to look for it. And then you spend half an hour looking for that. And then you try and copy that and you paste it, it does become a bit, all over the place. And so I think you don't have to be just a big company to be having processes in place. Just even running around as a solo, or you're building your own little environment, it's super valuable. Because it serves you time, it gives you the confidence, and again, like Gene said, you're giving everybody the same experience, and so then you get known for that. So I don't think of it as just for one day when I get big. I think it's really important to start now.
Thanks, Ben. Barry, can you give us some insights? I know you're with a larger organization. Anything from your side?
Yes, just let me know if you can hear me clearly. I'm on a Bluetooth headset, so hopefully it's okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Cool. So, I mean, yes, I am with a bigger group, but I'm creating my own sort of vision within that. And actually, this conversation comes at a perfect time for me, because I've just recognized within the group that we have, I've employed the first trainer to come and join me at the beginning of this month, and just realized that for myself, I want processes documented. And then, I mean, the point around scaling, we have big plans to scale this business fairly quickly. And so, the process conversation is kind of a central one for me that, I started wrestling with. So, I've had a couple of basic processes documented, but really getting a lot more diligent about it. I think the one thing that I would love to get from this session is, where you guys are storing your processes, that they're easily accessible to everyone, and what are the systems that you're using to document them. I suppose a couple of very practical questions there.
Okay, great, John. So what we do is everything's just saved in a document online. So yeah, I think we, most people are not saving. We use files, paper files, but everything's saved online. So we've got, like Frank, we have everything typed out and saved on a Word document or a PDF, and then so we're talking about the actual admin stuff. So that's then in our CRM, or so we save. Yeah, we've got like a Ben, a Google Drive or whatever. Everything is saved there. The idea when we move to Zoho, because obviously I know there is functionality within Xplan, but we can never find anything there. Well, that's why we're moving. So in Zoho, we won't be duplicating that. We'll have that all there as well. And then when it comes around the client stuff, the meetings and all that, as I said again, those are also saved into client files, and then in every client file we have a list of things. It'll be meetings, and then in meetings it'll be what meeting was. So an initial engagement or a goal setting meeting. And then the dates, and in that folder is then the recording, the minutes, the PowerPoint presentation that we used in that meeting. So that's then all saved forever. So it's very easy for us to back reference and to see what we've got. Anyone else want to add? How are they saving the info? Russell, I can pick on you again, or Frank.
Yes, I also, I probably use the same methods. I use a lot of cloud storage as well. And then, like what Dirk mentioned as well, what you do easily is after you've documented your normal general files, you and that's the one thing I would say with processing or me working on the practice, is that you're always going to end up improving your processes. So I think one thing I'll also mention is once you have your foundations down, you'll find ways like what I've done is to create templates and automate things so it continuously becomes more and more efficient. But yeah, I save it to like Google Drive as well, a lot of my documents, so that it's all synced.
Okay. And so the Xplan, I mean, the CRM that you used, was that Xplan as well or not?
Yeah, it's a combination of Xplan and Notion that I'm using.
Okay, so are you saving, what are you saving anything to Xplan?
Only the emails and correspondences. I mean, what I've done as well, I've automated it, is that like you mentioned in the first slide, I think it's also a rule they teach you when you start out in your career as a financial advisor. I save every correspondence I have with a client, to come on my back, but I also use that to build processes or interactions with the client. So yeah, I save that on Xplan, and then because they say you should have it in more than one place, I do save things to also cloud. So that can be Google Drive or Dropbox. I use Google Drive. And then I also save it to my external hard drive as well. But I have it synced so it automates or, kind of like uploads and updates once every month.
Okay. And Brian, what are you guys using with your new system?
So all correspondence we can save to LACRM. So all emails. So you tag each client profile is identified by the email address. So when you email a client, you BCC in the same email address, which is like a long it almost looks like a string of code. And then it's like a plugin, and then that will immediately match it to the client and immediately saves it in the cloud in the system. All client documents are saved in 3 locations, each of them individually, separately encrypted. So we only work on a shared folder. We work on OneDrive. So OneDrive is then backed up to 3 separate locations, which just built in redundancies, just in case someone hacks us or holds our database to ransom, we can just destroy it. So yeah, it's all online. I don't have paper files. Some of my clients who are veterans, I need to go to them and they have to sign stuff, but then I immediately scan it and I destroy the documents. And so that the thing behind me used to be full of documents. Now it's not. It's a bookshelf. So basically everything is done online. But OneDrive, Microsoft provides you generally with everything you need, to be honest. So you don't need to necessarily buy different types of data storage services or whatever. And with that, you can duplicate or triplicate your systems accordingly, and it all happens automatically according to rules. Same with Outlook. And so the guy that we're utilizing on the IT side, he's had clients who are big corporates that he does this for, who've been taken to court by a client for something, and they've had to go back like 10 years into emails, and they do word searches and that on old backups, and they will find the documentation there and they'll be able to extract it to provide to lawyers and that. So utilizing what's available through our Office 365 membership, you're pretty much able to do as much as possible. But what they told us, what the IT guys told us, is the extreme importance of making sure that it's not just in one place, and that at least your backup is duplicated in various places with different points of access and different passwords and such.
Okay, and Brian, do you have that set up, or do you have to manually do that, or is it just set up that it automatically saves to 3 different places?
Yeah, it's plug in and play. So the first time you set it up, they set it up for you, and then it just maintains itself, and it's constantly backing up. And these days with data as well, everyone's got fiber and that type of thing. There's no sort of like a Monday at 4 p.m. Your system backs up. It's constantly, like right now, I can hear my computer, it's busy syncing. So it's constantly working the whole time. And yeah, once it's installed, you never think about it again, and you never have to unless there's a problem.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think it's the way to go. And like a veteran like myself, it's a big move systemizing things, and because we like to see it in black and white and paper. But I think the newer systems that are available are making it a lot easier. And our idea around moving to Zoho is that we're going to first just replicate what we have, which is actually very little. We've realized that Xplan doesn't really speak to IWP properly in any case. So we're quite happy having our planning model separate. And we'll just, because that still speaks to our asset map, and asset map does speak to Zoho.
Yeah.
So we'll find a way around that. But to first replicate what we have, and then slowly, as we get more comfortable, we'll start adding more and more functionality to that CRM, so that, you know, eventually we build something that's quite unique to our business, but does a whole lot of that stuff. So, but we understand it'll take time.
Sorry, I thought you finished. Sorry. There was something I picked up when I was last year, when we were researching the various systems. There are systems for advisors, and then there are systems that we can utilize as financial planners that we can turn into something we want it to be. Because my observation is off-the-shelf systems for advisors. It's more about mass. So it's dealing with lots of transactions the whole time. And especially when your income is linked to maybe a purchase. So like, for instance, your income is exclusively linked to life products or short-term products. It's all about tracking that and tracking your comm and all of that. But when you start limiting yourself to, as a planner, to like serving 100 families or whatever, you don't necessarily, I find I don't need a hell of a lot of integration. The integration I need more is about communicating to my clients and not communicating to product providers. So Xplan and stuff, yeah, they can integrate with everybody and you pay a hell of a premium for that. But if your business is not necessarily lining up medical aid business in a pipeline and managing that aggressively and managing your staff to make sure they're on leads and lead generation, it speaks to someone else. It speaks to a tight guy maybe, or whatever the case is. So I find for us, we need more, it's more about interacting with the client than it is interacting with the industry. And once you get into that space, I think you can say, well, actually anything made for a life company or a life agent is not really relevant to us. And then you can start focusing on everything else. Because when you do the data gathering for your annual planning meeting for the client, I mean, you go to Wealth Integrator, you update. I mean, you don't change anything excepting the value of the asset. So if the RA grew by 100K over the last year, you log on, if they're on Allen Gray or Old Mutual or whatever, you just update that quickly. If it integrates, that's fine, but all it's going to do is just change that value. And I find my prep for an annual planning meeting in terms of Wealth Integrator, even for a complex client, is like 15 minutes of just getting values. I don't download statements in that. That is a different meeting. This is planning. I just need fresh values. I don't think I need to pay thousands a month to integrate with another system, which generally will just give me rubbish and I won't have faith in it. And so that's why I think, to your point, systems like Zoho and all of that, and to document it on there is much better investment for a business in South Africa if you're a financial planner. If you're an advisor and you're doing a lot of the mass work and you've got 400 clients per FA, then you need something that turns all of that noise into a stream of information. And then I think, you know, the systems out there off the shelf, which are expensive, are probably better.
I agree with you. I like what you say. I mean, we're financial planning businesses, but we're relationship management. That's our industry. And once we've established that initial relationship, and like you say, initially we get all the client info, we find out what's unique about them, and we help them build their plan. We know things are going to change, but fundamentally they're not going to change. Who they are and what they're trying to get out of life, that fundamentally isn't going to change. So you're quite right. Those data collecting systems are really not that important. And again, typical to our industry, that's where the focus is, because as much as people use different language and they pretend they're doing something different, or they actually do want to, but they just don't know how, all the development is around that side of it. Whereas we know the real valuable side is on the relationship side, and having a CRM that allows you to enhance that relationship. And part of it will be sending documents. Part of it will be sending a report from time to time. But that whole communication, we've realized, is really, really important, because you want to do it differently to what the industry does. Because what the industry does is I send you a statement once a month or once a quarter, either makes you smile or you shit yourself, and then you get a phone call or a rude email, you know, and I mean that's not the business we should be in. So yeah, great. Anybody else want to add anything?
I just have a question, Dirk.
Sure.
And it's a little unrelated to what you're discussing now, but it's something that you mentioned earlier on in the discussion around the fact that there are always two of you in the meetings. And I know that you and I had challenges with that back in the day in terms of everybody else shooting us down and saying this model's never going to work, it's too expensive, blah, 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 blah. And clearly it has worked for you. And certainly, obviously, some of the other guys around the table today. What I'm curious about is at what point or how does one scale their practice to a point where it becomes financially viable to include a second qualified person or partially qualified, or kind of, can you talk me through the things with clients without completely breaking the bank? Because as we know, as people get qualified, they become more and more expensive, etc., etc. And for me, it's just that for me has always been a bit of a challenge. I don't know if anybody else has got comments to make in that regard.
Yeah, let's get it is a challenge, and to me that's one of the reasons why a lot of businesses don't grow, because so there are two sides to it. On the business owner side, you've got to see it as an investment. You know, if you're seeing it as anything different, then it's not going to work. So let me start. So the reason we want two people in a meeting is, is we believe that we want clients to build a relationship with the business. If they build a relationship with just Dirk or Alex, we all know lots of big planning businesses where all you've got businesses within the business. You've got silos. Every planner's got his clients. They share a boardroom, a receptionist, some staff, things like that. And my goal is to try and get away from that. My goal is to build a business where if I'm going to the bush, that client is just as happy to speak to Alex, Ben, or Catherine, because they've built a relationship. And it's tricky because, you know, what we discuss is extremely personal. And the reason, again, why we have so many meetings on onboarding clients is because we know that to build that trust takes time. So for us, the more we can meet with our clients, especially initially, we'll embrace that, because we know that every time we meet, we can put them at ease and make them understand, you know, who we are, what we're trying to do. So that's where it came from. We want to build a different business model that isn't just silos. The way we've done it is quite simply, you know, I've tried to find the right people, which is hard, and that doesn't mean there's good or bad people. It just means people who can share, who can piggyback on your vision. I can't even say values, because that means some would be good or bad, but similar values and a similar vision. And it really takes a young planner. Let's say young planner now, so that's easy. It takes patience on their side, because they could probably be earning more money elsewhere than coming to a business like ours. But if they see the long-term, so if we can paint out a long-term career path, and in our business, it's about long-term becoming a partner in the business. It's not about ownership. You know, being a partner is not about owning how many shares. It's about being a proper partner. So eventually, even though shareholding will be different from time to time, at the end of the day, you all have an equal say. You all have equal input, and you have equal responsibility, and that's it. But the only way it starts is with the founder of the business basically paying a salary to someone that they can live off. And that's the biggest problem in this industry, is that the model doesn't allow that to happen. You know, everyone gets given targets, go out and sell, and we know straight away there's a big problem there. So that's what we've done. So, in our place, we've started with Alex, and Alex he's not here today because he's preparing for a meeting, hopefully. No, I know he is. It's Alex has been with me coming up to 5 years now, and we also being younger. It's and I know, like, he's not here, so I can say it, but I've like sometimes he's felt like I've held him back, but it's been worth it. So all the hard work that and the patience that he's put in is now being rewarded because he's really, really good at what he does. He's really good at what he does, and he's getting paid, I believe, what he would get paid elsewhere. He's had to wait a little bit longer for it. But the future that someone like that now has in the business is really bright.
I think what you said earlier there, Dirk, just to jump in, sorry, is that you were saying the alignment of the values and the principles and the fundamentals of the business are so critical.
Yeah.
And that kind of makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not easy, and I speak to the industry a lot, and I'm still speaking, in fact, to Wealth. Because the next step is then how do you buy into a business, because now the business has got a value, and but the young planner coming in, I've got a bond to pay and a car and I've got a baby, and how do I fund all of this? So it's a real problem, and banks don't understand our business because all they see is a book and turnover. I've spoken to private equity. All they look at is free cash flow, and obviously there isn't because I'm paying all the salaries, So there's no one who really gets what we do, and that's the challenge. And if we can fix that, then I really, really believe we can change the industry, and that's what we're trying to do at Client Clear. Is we're trying to kind of create a model that it will work.
Sustainability,
and when it works, we can then say to people, well, there it is, we've done it. And a lot of your businesses, maybe you've been in planning for 30 years. Maybe you're not going to take over 5 mil. Maybe you just take home 3 mil. Don't be so greedy. I mean, how much money do you need? But it only comes with having the desire to build something sustainable and something different, as opposed to just collecting as much money as you can. So there is the quid pro quo. I've got to give away cash flow, okay, and I've got to make my wife understand why. And then the young planners coming in have to be patient and understand that, and in this world of instant gratification, it's really difficult. So yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, and look, Ben's so Ben's been with us since the beginning of the year. Adds massive value to our business in a whole host of different ways. But Ben also understands this, and we built kind of a management team, we could call it, of decision makers in the business, and we know where we want to go, and we're doing that all together. It's driven by a vision that I have, but it's not going to do it if I don't get the other guys buy-in. So they share in building the long-term business plan and where we want to go. But it's a challenge. But I think it's really exciting at the moment as well. I really think it can work. Yeah, Ben, I don't know if you want to speak to it, because you've obviously come from the corporate world where you're also in corporate, but you're on your own to a different kind of business.
Yeah, I think you said a lot there already, Dave, to sum up. I mean, yes, you can either go out and try and build a practice, and if you're building a practice right, it can take a long time to get somewhere, sustainable. But to join a practice or a firm that's been running for 30 years and got processes and got things in place, yes, you might take a cut, if you want to call it like that, initially, but the long-term value of when that business now grows, and now you're a partner in that business, and now that business is growing. I mean, it takes a bit longer, but I mean, that's just way further than I would ever be if I had started my own thing. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, what I've realized also, Liske, is that what I want to build, I can't do on my own. I can't do it on my own. So I have to at some point throw caution to the wind, and I have to trust people. And again, the challenge is finding the right people And that doesn't mean people are wrong. It just means they may be wrong for your fit. But finding people that have the same vision as you, I think that's the challenge. And if you can do that, then it can work. But I mean, as I say to everyone starting off in this business, this is a really, really tough industry to get into, and you need more than hard work. Hard work is non-negotiable. Patience is really the biggest thing that you need. But if you have belief that you can build something different and special, then you can do it. But you've got to be patient.
Thanks, Dirk. Thanks for
Lecture's
sharing.
over. Anyone else have anything you want to chat about? Okay, guys. We're finishing a little early today, but that's fine. We've recorded this, so I'll share it on the WhatsApp group a little later. But yeah, thanks. And again, any subjects or any things that you guys would like to chat about in future, please drop me a line and we can look at that. As we say, we don't want to talk about markets. We want to talk about things which are lifestyle financial planning issues, and how to get better at what we do. Remember, there are no silly questions. We here to help each other. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Dirk. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Cheers,
Bye.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.